Hello and welcome to the Mindset and Mindfulness Podcast with me, your host, Sandy Powell. Welcome to today's episode. Today's guest is Mark Tully. He's born and raised in Scotland and he resides in Sydney, Australia.
Yes.
He is a certified life coach who specialized in helping men with their personal development. He also has his own podcast called The Vernal. Welcome, Mark.
Oh, hello. How are
you? Good. So good to have you. Yes.
Likewise.
Let's start off by giving us some background information. Like, who are you? How did you get here?
Hi, I'm Mark. I answered a Zoom call. No, I'm joking.
Yes, very good.
No, I've been in Australia for 9 years. I was trained as an electrician back home and came here, been doing the same sort of stuff here, currently supervising some motorway upgrade works. And yeah, recently I got into this sort of stuff because I did my own trauma therapy. Is this where you wanted me to go with this? Yeah, okay, cool. I got my own trauma therapy about 2 years ago, and I learned a lot about myself, obviously, and so much about how the body and the mind works and stuff. And the biggest thing, apart from my personal growth, that I took away was the population of the world isn't taught this stuff. And I found a massive passion for all these links and why you would behave like this because this thing happened and all these sort of really fascinating things. So I've got a passion for it. I genuinely do love the human psychology and figure things out. And I've always enjoyed helping others and stuff, you know what I mean? So I went and I started volunteering at a safe space, which is basically someone in sort of mental despair, or even if they're not feeling too good and they're not sure why, can come in. And it's just a human being to bounce off of, essentially. There's nothing clinical about it. You just sort of, you're taught, you did some basic training and we just taught to listen. And listening's got a lot to do with not talking, which the world seems to think it's you listen to answer, or maybe not the world, but, you know, a lot of people. But I certainly used to as well. But you're not, you listen to understand. And then you actually hear the person, you know, properly. And then it was just to bring out like things in their own life that they liked better and stuff like that, which was good. That wasn't enough for me though. Like it was good and everything, but felt like I wanted to help more. So I seen an advert for Jay Shetty's life coaching school. And I instantly thought, I'm not ready. And this is negative self-talk, you see. And then I said to myself, I says, aha, but when will you be ready? Will you ever be ready? And I was like, probably not. So I just just said, okay, phone them and got into the coaching side of things. Had to do some free clients for the course. You had to do like 20 hours minimum. I think I did way more than that. And then some of those clients came over to full-time. I'm not pushing a business as yet because I'm still working full-time as electrical supervisor. So there's not that much time to spare after I've been to the gym and done some studying and then had a client or something like this. But soon, possibly when this job ends, we'll see. I'm doing another course. Calvin Coyle's is Master Coaching and NLP. So that'll end in May. And that should be me with like a full, maybe not a full toolkit yet. I don't think you can ever have a full toolkit, but definitely way more tools in my arsenal to coach. There's some really powerful stuff that he teaches, so I'm really excited to learn that, and then obviously put the value into my clients. Yeah, that's where I am at the minute, basically.
Yes. So what is what is the biggest lesson that you've learned so far? Because it seems like, so you said, you know, you're putting the mindset in, like, right, when will you ever be ready and stuff. So you're already, you know, you're applying things, but it also seems like you're not quite ready to jump ship yet to full-time coaching.
No,
Or is that still part of your identity, you know, being the supervisor, doing that? Or is that just because you're not feeling ready? Or
well, the supervising pays the bills, right?
yeah.
I mean, if I had a lot of money in the bank, I'd maybe do the jump. I've also
Right.
got several coaches since I've started this journey, some business coaches and then some other sort of life coaches, if you will. Well, definitely life coaches, actually, two or three. And one of them said the point to make the transfer is when you can predictably create clients. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, as in, you throw a webinar or you do a online event or an in-person event or something like this, and
Right.
you're going to get between 3 to 4 clients or whatever the number is. It doesn't matter. But
Right.
like this event, if I do it like this and I action this, I get X amount of clients. He's
Right.
like, that's when you make the transfer. And I really like that because that's like
Right.
makes a lot of sense, right? If you don't have that and you're not doing that, then it's a risk. It's a really big risk, right? And why would I stop doing what I'm doing in a minute? I also like to see a project out as well, right? So I've started this project. They've said they want to keep me to the end, so I want to stay to the end and be like, I completed that. You know what I mean? And I'm also fighting fears, right? That's the biggest lesson, actually. To answer your question,
Mm-hmm.
is they say you're the only thing standing in your way, or the only thing in your way is you. That's so true, man. It is so true. Like the content creation, like the videos and stuff. I've got a TikTok, which is Mark Tully PDM, Personal Development for Men, if anybody wants to go and look it up. I've got some videos on there. I haven't put a lot of content on there for a long time because the podcast is way better and I don't need to fight as many fears. Like to fight the fears to go and do the video and stuff, and you get a bit awkward or whatever. And also to be more genuine and authentic. And that's why the podcast is way better.
Right.
I can just talk, I can be real. I'm Scottish, so I can swear, it just comes naturally to us. And the impact, the feedback that I'm getting back from people is amazing. It's so good. The guy was even like, "Oh, I've been thinking of getting therapy. I'm going to go and get therapy now." And some people are like, "I've started journaling." It's really, really, really good. Really good. Loving it. Whereas I don't think you can get that in a 60-second video, that kind of impact. And to be honest with you, there's people look for the Dr. Joseph Ferrari. He does procrastination. He put this very well. It's like there is no quick fix, but there is no like if you do this, then your life's going to be better, sort of thing. Like just do this one thing. It's a magnitude of things, but when you break it down, they are simple, but they also all take work. You know what I mean? So the podcast is really good to deliver something, and the idea it's called the Vernal, right? I made up a word because it actually kind of already exists, but it's spelled differently. So I just spelled it wrong, essentially. And which is how do I spell it? VURNAL instead of ER, because the ER, I looked it up and it was a video journal, right? Whereas I want to do a spoken journal. But if you called it a spinal, it sounds like some sort of spinal injury or something, right? Like, so
Right.
yeah, the V for voice, vernal, spoken journal.
Yeah, helpful, helpful. So what's the biggest lesson then, what you've learned so far in getting to the point where you are? Like,
To
is
push
it more
yourself for
like,
sure, like because you are the only thing in your way. Like you know what I mean? It'd be all your fears, all the doubts, all the limiting beliefs that you've learned over the years. Because the more I've pushed myself, the more fear that I get for the next step.
right,
And it's just dialing back. Like recently, I've been putting so much pressure on myself. Like I set these targets and I should be doing this. I should have a Instagram business page by now. I should have this, should have that. And it was just, I was stuck in my own head. So I pulled the handbrake and all that stuff and says, well, hang on a second. Let's be present. It was my last podcast episode. Be present and just take stock and realize how far I've actually came. And now I feel so much better. Plus, I've been home as well. I've been home on a visit back to Scotland and felt all the love. And that's always a great reset,
right,
for a lot of reasons, but the love between friends and family being the main reason, and also seeing where I came from, like physically seeing it and being there and touching it and experiencing that, and it really gives me a better perception and depth of how far I've came.
right.
Yeah, which is really good
I
because
think
the area's nice and the people's nice. I love my friends and everything, but the atmosphere and the general culture over there isn't as it's a bit more narrow-minded than over here. want the truth. Like if there's nothing to do, you go to the pub. That's it. Like whereas over here, you go for the beach, go for a walk, go a coastal walk, you go climbing, you go. There's so many different things to do, you know.
Right.
But yeah, um, yeah, that's it. The biggest lesson is you. It's you. You're the person that's getting in your way.
But I imagine there's also a lot of awareness gained when you go through
Oh
therapy,
yeah.
when you go through coaching. Usually, right, with coaches, it's a lot of times you're your first client, right? Like you're helping yourself go through things and then
Well, that's why the course was good, right? Like because I would life coach myself on every
Mhm.
module of the course, so like 12 modules or something like this. You know what I
Right.
mean? You have to do yourself. So you
Okay.
have to do the exercise. And it's like, wow, you're doing some stuff and like writing down three things that the three worst things that happened in your life or something like this. And then like working through them to process them. Even after therapy, that was like, all right, I think I paused that. I think I walked away from that one and come back to the next day more mentally prepared, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I poured like 300 plus hours in that course. So it was really good course. But yeah, awareness, talk to me about awareness from pre-therapy to therapy. So one of the things I learned in therapy was that became disassociated, right?
Mm.
Which means you won't be able to feel certain feelings depending on the degree you're disassociated with. And generally they're negative feelings and stuff. And it's like, fears. So like I was just this daredevil, I didn't care, you know what I mean? I was just going to do anything and I didn't feel like nervous and things like this because my body was just like decided that they were shit and and to not feel them. So she got me reassociated, my therapist did. And I remember getting all anxious about something and my chest, sorry, my chest tightening up. And I was like, whoa, I felt this like lump here, like pushing on me. And I breathed through it, you breathe in for 4 whole seconds and eight through out through your mouth for eight. I'll get that right eventually. And just tell yourself that that's working, right? Because that literally calms down the survival part of your brain, which is freaking out in that time, which is called your amygdala. And you have to back it up with positive thoughts because you'll just re-trigger the negative emotion, sorry. And if you re-trigger the negative emotion, right, it's just going to start the clock again. And an emotion only lasts for 90 seconds.
Right.
So if you can breathe through it and then start saying stuff like, yeah, I am in control, I'm safe, I know what's going on here. Like, because anxiety is basically just freaking out. Um, and yeah, if you breathe through it and then back up with positive thoughts, you can bring yourself back around. That was how I dealt with it. And it was something else I remember thinking like, fuck, I'm happy that I'm going through therapy and I'm progressing, but this being reassociated with these feelings, can I just remove that bit?
Well, it's always a struggle, right? It's always a struggle when
Yeah.
you're going through it. I mean, in the end, you're going to be happy about it, right? When it's all said and
Oh,
done and
so much.
you're managing better. But obviously in the beginning, you open the Pandora's box and it's all like, oh, why did I look in there, right? Which is why
Yeah.
so many people are like, ooh, there's a pain point. Nope, I'm just not going to go, right? Instead of, okay, let's just take the box, let's open it up. It's going to be a bunch of, shit I have to eat and go through. But once I'm through, at least I know on the other side there's light, you know what I mean? I won't have
Yeah.
this box under the bed anymore, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, you know what? I was chatting to a friend, my barber, and she was like, people just need to have more fun with all this sort of stuff. This whole industry is a bit doom and gloom, and it's so true. And I'm that your energy just reminded me of that. Like people need to be more happy about this stuff. Cause yeah, like sometimes it's shit, but most of the time you're improving your life. Like, and when it is shit, that's when you get the adversity. That's when you get the most gain, right? Like to the point where I fell in love with the process. And I actually remember starting to feel horrible about something, and I wasn't even sure what it was at the time. But also, I got these excited feelings coming through at the same time because I knew on the other side of the storm, like run through the storm, I was going to be like have this enlightened moment and like figure something out, and it was just going to feel absolutely amazing. That was going to be another sort of trigger or part of emotional chaos that was in my body that I didn't even know about until I started therapy, but there was a whole heap of shit going on that I was going to have calmed down, and then I can put them in a little box nice and safe, and they're not like freaking out anymore. I can then open them up and just show it to anybody who's there and talk about it. No problem. It's like it's used to be a chaotic thing, and now it's just a orderly file or a book just sitting there nice and calm, like
Right.
a book would.
Yeah. Yeah. And but I think
Yeah.
it's also all in layers, right? At least it was for me, right? Like I obviously I knew like there's some issues within my life, right? Like that was like screaming at me. I was like, okay, let's deal with this big massive thing. And then, you remove that, and then it's like, oh, there's another one. Oh, I didn't know, because like that other one was so overshadowing everything. So once you, dealt with that one, oh goody, another package, wonderful. It's just kind of like, and I felt like, yeah, like some of the feelings I had was, I was very, I don't know, like, let's say happy, sad, and maybe angry, right? And the more I dealt with different things and the more I unearthed things, I also became, yeah, like you said, I was a bit more disassociated at first, and then I became like, oh my god, I do have more, like there's a little bit more a gray area here, and what is this feeling, and what is this, and oh my goodness, right? The more you look into it and more experience and like feel into it, like you said, you want to be the Sherlock Holmes of your own stories,
Yes.
your own things. So I feel like, yeah, like going onto the self-discovery, the journey, right? Like you unearth those layers, you experience yourself more, you get in contact with yourself more, but you also earth so many more, feeling so much more depth to yourself, which is right, like, which is what you want. Like you want to connect with people, but you want to connect with yourself first. You can only connect with somebody else as much as you have connected with yourself. You can only love someone else as much as you really love yourself, because like you can't give what you don't have.
Yep.
So it's just a really, it's a special journey. It's a tough journey, right? But it's definitely worthwhile. I'm right there with you. Definitely worthwhile.
Well, it's like, have you ever heard the analogy about the cows and the buffaloes in the storm? The cows are
Mm-hmm.
scared of the storm,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they run away from it when it's coming. But what they end up doing is the storm comes along, they're there, and the storm's coming, and they run away from it, and they end up in the storm, and they're running with the storm for longer, right?
Right.
So that's like, essentially, that's just trying to carry on with your life
Yes.
and running away from, all the emotional chaos or whatever, right?
Yes.
Whereas buffaloes, they see a storm and they face it, and when it gets close enough, they run through it.
Through it. Mm.
So they do this. So they do this. They're in the storm for a fraction of the time, and they're on the other side, and they're probably feeling a lot more achieved than the cows would be. You know what I mean? So that's the definition. A really good way to put a
Oh,
perspective on
that's very good.
facing your mind and your emotions and stuff like that, and actually tackling them through, whether that's coaching or therapy or whatever method you use. Yeah, I like that
And
one
yeah, and
because
that really hammers home the point of, looking at the box, looking at all the shit that's underneath your bed. Because every time you look, you're gonna get triggered. You're gonna be like, oh no, right? And you can do this for the
yeah,
rest of your life. Every time you have a peek under the bed, it's like, oh man. But you could just face it now and just clean it up, clean out all that shit
yes,
under the bed, and then you're good to go. And again, yes, there might be some other things you unearth, but at some point you're going to be done with that. And it does get
yeah,
easier, usually. I mean, right? And yeah, like, then you don't have the fear of looking under the bed. And you don't have the, oh my God, there's this and that there. And oh my God, yeah. Like you said, you're not the cow running
absolutely,
away from the storm. You're just kind of going at it, you're going through it. And yes, it might be painful, it might suck for a moment, but then you're done with it, you're through it instead of just constantly running away from it and carrying it with you. I mean, there's also,
yeah,
you're right, you gotta decide to drop the baggage. To really like, no, I'm
for
not
sure.
carrying that shit no more. Like, that's just no. No. I want to, have a good life, a happier life. This is not serving me. Why am I carrying this crap? This is like past shit. This is stuff that's not even mine or whatever. At least it was with me. So let's just drop all that and go live your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to help put it in perspective, I was 34 when I started. I'm nearly 36 now, right? So 28 years, say 27, 28 years of struggling through stuff. And then my therapy took 9 months, once a week, intensive. And I was pretty much like maybe 10 months. Yeah, something like this. And I remember my therapist telling me right at the start that because she asked me a question, how much do you think this is affecting your life? And I was like, I can't give you like examples, but probably everything. And she's like, yeah, of course. This this like chaos and stuff, emotional chaos, and she spoke to my subconscious. She's like, this has been holding you back from your full potential. And she couldn't have said anything that was more true, right? Like now I'm literally within 2 years of starting therapy, I've done a life coaching course and I've started a business and I have paying clients and everybody's happy. You know what I mean? Like, and I grew up poor, right? This is a big motivator for me as well. So obviously I do want to create a better life for myself as well, but I want to help the old me. You know what I mean? The young kid, teenager, the young 20-year-old, and up until 34, I guess. Like, I'm talking to and me now as well. Like a lot of the stuff, because I'm personal development, I'm literally I could be my own coach right now. You know what I mean? Because I'm at a massive point of development, like trying to fire up a business that I want to grow into something really impactful. Yeah, the development is crazy. So, and like that creates a lot of problems. That creates all these fears of not being good enough, or the fear of being judged, and all this sort of stuff. And that stuff, yeah, it's really holds you back. So working through that's good. And everything I work through, I'm like, oh, teach somebody about this. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah, but see, I feel like fear is always going to be a part of life. Like brave people are still fearful, but they handle it, right? They face their fear. Like that's the difference, right? Like we all
Yeah.
have fears and we all, face like imposter syndrome and things like that. We all, have the insecurities, right? Because like every time you reach a new level, you always think like, oh, this
Yeah.
person does it better than me and things like that. Even if like you have your own business and you are already 5 years in the business or whatever, but there's people that made it for 20 years or they do this better and this better. So there's always someone better, but it's always kind of, that's why you don't compare yourself to others. You compare yourself to yourself, to you yesterday, to you 5 years ago, to you
Yes.
10 years ago. And that's how you keep yourself from getting overwhelmed, from getting, looking, the grass is greener over here or over here, right? Because like you're working on your own progress. You're the goal, you whatever is your lane, whatever is your goal, whatever is the better you that you're striving, that you're pulling yourself towards, right? That is what you're working towards. And whether there's fear, whatever it is, like you are there to face it and you'll figure it out and you get better and you jump another hurdle and it's gonna be just beautiful. You're gonna pull yourself towards that better version of you.
Yeah. It's like if you want to achieve your dreams, go towards what scares you. That's where they are. They're
Yes.
on the other side of that stuff.
Yes, they are on the side of
Right through that.
uncomfortable. Yes. And like you said earlier, like you're getting scared and stuff too. And like I was saying too, like now, like I still do get nervous. I still do like I'm more of an introvert myself too, right? And like talking with people or like getting ready to, speak at a webinar and things like that. I am nervous, but I'm also feel excitement, right? And I've come to realize, oh, like I am getting the tense and tingly feeling, but it's not just the fear, it's also the excitement because I know I can do it and I know I'm going to feel so great having done it and maybe I can help somebody and that's just going to feel so great. So just kind of going with that and just kind of reminding myself that on the other side, right? It's going to be good. It's going to be beautiful. I'm going to be stronger on the other side. That's a good way for
Yeah,
me to go
I love
through
that
it.
one. I love that one. How you had the nervousness, and then you're like it's excitement because don't they say that like the neuroscientists and stuff like this, like Andrew Huberman says, that actually nerves and excitement there isn't much between them, you know what I mean? Like they're
Oh,
very
they're related.
closely related. Like, and it's so true as well. Like, you can be nervous and think like the power of subconscious mind, right? Think like, oh my God, I'm nervous, I'm so scared or something like that. Or you could feel the same feelings and be like, I'm so excited. This is going to be so good. And literally reframe that situation to change it for yourself.
Right. Yeah. And make it work for you, to
Yeah, to
get up
bring
on
out
it
more
instead
emotions
of
that you
making it
actually
stop
want.
you. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. That's so cool.
exciting.
Very powerful, the mind.
Unbelievable.
Yes. So if you could go back to a younger version of yourself, is there something that you would tell yourself?
See, this one's a tricky one. Yeah, but would I want to? Would I want to? You know what I mean? Because I was fighting a lot, getting fucked up on drugs and stuff like this. And I always had a job though. Never let it like lose a job or anything like this. Never actually been sacked in my life. But um, yeah, it was pretty crazy times. But it's made me who I am today. You know. So like,
Right, but is there like maybe like a part of wisdom, or maybe just like a, keep going, or there's gonna be, I don't know, something, was there like a really dark time where you just kind of wish there was maybe, you
yeah,
know, your older
I
self
would tell them.
pulling
Yeah, for
yourself through?
sure. There's probably two things. I would tell them, don't worry, you're not supposed to know. You're supposed to figure it
Mhm.
out because that really takes the pressure off. I mean, especially if you're like, like something's bothering you and you're going, just tell yourself, well, relax here. You're not supposed to know. So, you take a step back and like you're supposed to figure it out. That's our journey of life, if you will. You're just figuring it out the whole time. And then, we won't be here anymore, basically.
Yeah,
Like figuring one thing out, like you said before, it's in layers, right? And it's never ending. Like you're gonna work on that thing, work on that thing, work on that thing. If you want to constantly progress, or like some people might get to a certain level and just be happy and want to chill out, which is fine. But someone like myself, I'll always be like, well, I noticed that now that I've got to here because it changes your perspective of things and it raises more awareness and stuff. But yeah, that. So don't worry, and also tell him to keep going, hang on in there because it gets better, and he's definitely meant for more. That meant for more would have helped me a lot in my darker days, and I
Mhm.
think that applies to any human that's like, I was heavily depressed and stuff like this. Yeah, you're definitely meant for more, whatever point you're at.
Right.
It's because if you are heavily depressed and stuff, you're not reaching your full potential. No way. I would any if I could change anything, it would just to get therapy sooner. I was 34.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I was like,
Yeah.
so if I'd done it earlier, I could be on a different path now. So I'm not gonna like go into that and be like, oh, blah blah blah, regrets or anything like that. There's no regrets in my life whatsoever.
Oh,
and
there's
and
some.
I'm able to do that
Yeah.
by looking back at the young guy who would have made a lot of mistakes in some people's eyes, and just I don't judge him with my knowledge, right? And nobody should judge their younger self like something they've done in the past. They might feel shame because shame's the strongest emotion as well, right? So if you feel shame, it is literally holding you back in your life because you think you're less of a person and then you think you're less capable, of course. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
like that, and how you think about yourself in the past is how you hold yourself in the current state, and how you hold yourself in the current state, like the regards and what you believe yourself and your capabilities and things, is exactly how your life is going to pan out. So it directly affects your future.
Right.
So never ever look back and think, oh, fuck, idiot, shouldn't have done that. You were only acting the best you could with the information you had at the time.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, you're only
You know what I
doing the
mean?
best. You're always in every single moment, you're doing the best that you can with the information that you have at the time. So shoulda, woulda, coulda, like those things are usually not really helpful because,
Yeah.
like it's not like like you're like when you're thinking of a situation right now, like, hey, should I go with this job or should I go with this job? You're making the best decision at this time. Like you're never like thinking, oh, I should go with this one because that's going to really fuck me up, right? So you're always choosing the best of your ability and capability at that moment. So have the grace then looking back at that and be like, okay, I fucked up, but you know what? I didn't know any better. I did the best I could. And so it is okay, Like I think people
Yeah.
are holding themselves to some crazy standards sometimes too, just kind of,
Yes.
narrating and then poking in the past and this and this and this and this, and instead of just like, okay, what can I learn from this? I did some
Yes.
shit there, but how can I make it better now? Like that's literally what we're doing. We're like struggling through life. We're like getting all these opportunities so that we can learn from it, right? Like you said, we're here to figure things out. Nobody knows where you're gonna go tomorrow, what's happening next week, in 2 years. Yes, we're kind of, planning and we're kind of having our goals, but in the end, right? I don't know, you can get hit by a truck tomorrow and things look completely different. So you always want
Yeah.
to look at what is in front of you and go with that and just kind of, what can I add? What have I learned? What can I do with this information? And then use it as a stepping stool, as a, go climb your ladder, go make it better.
Yeah.
Instead of
Use the
making it hold you
lesson.
back, instead of feeling the shame, instead of being like, oh my God, what did I do? No, you did the best that
Yeah.
you could.
Take the lesson and feel the inspiration of the fact that you got through it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, the lesson. Because when you started talking, I was like, oh, damn, I forgot to say that bit. And then you did. So brilliant. Well done. Thank you.
Well, see, great
Thank
mind
you.
thinks alike.
Yeah, absolutely. Fools
Yes.
seldom differ.
Yes. No, but that's why I love talking about these things. I love hearing stories. And honestly, I love hearing stories about struggle because those are the ones that brought the most growth, the most opportunities for growth. Right. And I feel
Yeah,
like sometimes
absolutely.
moving away from home, you know, gets you even more potential because I feel like, like you're going out of, your current surroundings, and moving to a different country. I feel like it's like 10x that, because like you're just like throwing, it's super totally different and stuff. And I just feel, yeah, I love it. I just love connecting with people on that and see like, how did it change? How would it be if you would just have stayed there, and how is it now? Like, because I think it takes a certain person too to kind of face it and go there. Not many people. I always get that too. Like, oh my God, like why? How did you end up in the States? I was born and raised in Germany. And they're like, wait, you moved to a different country and there was nobody there? Is there anybody? Did you know anybody? No. Your family still in Germany. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
I could never do that. And for me, I also went here, yeah, for job opportunities, but like I stayed because I started building my life here and it started to flourish. And at some point I was at the, crossroads. Am I going back? Am I staying? And I decided to stay. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. And looking back at it now, it didn't seem that big of a deal. Like I've grown obviously so
Yeah.
much more. I know in the beginning it was crazy. Like you know, like learning more English. Like, of course, I knew English, but like not to the point where I needed to use it in every single moment of my life to explain all my feelings and describe what I'm, and have all the idioms and stuff. Like, there's so many things that don't translate from German to English, So there was a lot of struggle, especially the first year. Um, but yeah, you learn, you grow, and yeah.
Nice.
Well, it's you here. You're here. I mean, it's
Yeah. Oof.
been
It's
quite some time, 15 years almost now.
15 for you. Wow. Yeah. 9 for me. Yeah, it does. And it feels like, doesn't feel like 9 years. You think,
I know.
wow.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if you could have, if you could boil it down, maybe like what is maybe like one tip, or what is something that keeps you motivated and keeping going? And I think we probably already touched on it, but like maybe also for somebody else who hasn't, made himself go on the journey, like what is something they could maybe, what could motivate them?
Yeah. Motivation, I think, it's a funny one because I think we've got it wrong. I certainly used to. I think there's a common misperception, like a societal belief around motivation. It's something that you have or get from somewhere, but it's not. It's something you create. You create it for yourself. And once you understand that, you don't need to wake up feeling motivated because you go, right, okay, what have I got to do today? What's going to be my attitude? What am I working on? And how am I going to motivate myself? You know what I mean? Like, so for me, it's purpose. So I found a purpose, I found a passion with this mental health stuff and personal development. And my purpose is to help as many men as possible and women. I have female clients as well, but it's all aimed at men because I feel like that's where it's needed. Like the male population isn't designed to talk about their emotions and be, like emotionally intelligent and things like this. We're designed to provide and protect, right? And then I think obviously that's trickling down over the generations and we're getting much better at it. But yeah, the purpose is, so I've set like a moonshot goal, and that's to empower 1 million men to positively improve their own life. That's the written down, that's the goal, although I don't like goals too much, that's the life direction, I like to call it, because I set them too low, right? Because if I had to achieve the goal, I wouldn't be setting it at 1 million men because you know what I mean? So it's like setting goals are great as long as you've got some sort of life direction that's really big, really bold, because that's how you get there. Like people don't fail in life because they, you know, didn't try. I think that people fail to achieve their full potential in life because they set a goal and they achieved it.
They
You
played
know
it.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you set a really high goal and miss, you'll get a lot further than if you set a goal you're going to achieve because you're attached to the goal. But if you've enjoyed the process and every single little step of the way and really celebrate that with yourself and fall in love with that, then yeah, use direction and just go for the stars and see where you end up. Because getting there is actually irrelevant, right? It's just enjoying the time, enjoying the journey.
Yes. Yes.
I use my purpose. I say, right, this is what you're aiming for. What you're going to do today to do it. You know what I mean? Like I have find myself being on my phone for 2 hours because I'm doom scrolling or whatever. Like I turn my phone into grayscale, so it's like just gray. You know what I mean? So it's a lot more boring. So you get that detached and you can be like, oh yeah, this isn't helping my life. This is a negative impact on my life. I don't need to watch all these funny videos, although they are entertaining. I need to go and study now, or I need to go and, prepare for this interview. So that's motivation. If you're looking for motivation, you're never going to find it. You need a purpose and then use that to motivate yourself.
Yeah.
And also,
Yeah.
another one as well, I should do more of because it would help a lot is I look back. It's called stacking. I look back through my life and everything I've came through and the people that I've helped even before getting this training and the things that I have achieved. Like, when I became an electrician, that was the biggest achievement of my life. And it was a really big achievement of my life at the time because there was a lot of people thought I was just going to, be a deadbeat and go to jail. So to become an electrician and then to become, I was in charge of guys and stuff and end up being the boss of the whole department where I was the factory I worked in back home. That was all seems small now, right? But at the time, that was absolutely massive things in my life. You know what I mean? And like I've got a phoenix on my shoulder, right? And I wanted one for a long, long time. It's not just because I've recently got the therapy and became a life coach. Way, way, way before then. It just got finished, just got touched up last week. And yeah, that's because of all the times that I've evolved so much, I've changed so much, and I became somebody that I never thought I could be, and doing things that I thought were impossible. Use yourself to inspire yourself.
Yes.
Self-spire, I call it.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, so you can do that. So that's another way to. So inspiration's much better than motivation because motivation will like always drop off. But if you're inspired, that's something you can really hold on to. And if you're inspiring yourself, like I say this with everything, if you come up with an idea or modify somebody else's idea so it suits you best, something that you can have and you can hold on to,
Mhm.
every single human being will work with that method better than if they just follow instructions from somebody else.
Right.
So if you're getting inspiration from yourself, that's something you can really hold on to and be proud of, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, motivation, I would get them from purpose and inspiration from yourself.
Yes.
And then, and because of those things, you then motivate yourself, you know?
Yeah, you're not reliant on anybody, right? Like there's so
Yeah,
many people
this is
like,
why people are
oh, if
so
I want to,
unmotivated.
yeah, like if I was, like I don't want to go to the gym or I don't know, I need somebody else to go with me and things like that. And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
no, no, you need to find the reason of why you want this, and then you go after it. You know what I mean? Like you need to get up and
Mm,
like you want to lose that weight, you want to be healthier, you want to reach this and that goal, yeah, then
yeah.
you figure out why this is so important, why is this so crucially important, and then that's your inspiration, that's your motivation, and that's what keeps you going. That's because like, yes, like you said, motivation dips and goes up. Not everybody is like, even me, I'm not every day I'm like waking up and like, oh yeah, let's go, let's do the world, no, right? Like I have to, yeah, like fall back on things too, and like, okay, I'm not feeling it today. What is something that I could still do? Like at least one thing that moves me towards my goal. There's days I'm like, yeah, so pumped, and I do like 5 things, right? And I'm like, oh yes, good job, right? And there's other days I'm like, oh man, today, let's just do one thing, one thing. I'm moving towards my goal, And I think, yeah, having the self-motivation, that intrinsic motivation is the biggest piece that people, right? That people need to find, to learn, to tune into in order to go places that they want to go.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
understanding that you control that, right? You control the
Exactly.
motivation. That's why, like I remember work on some jobs I've been on, they can get boring. And guys are just like, oh, do you need anything? Yeah, get me some motivation. It's like you don't get it from anywhere. It's not a thing that Jim Quick does a really good thing on it. So look up Jim Quick and motivation. He's really, because he's
Oh,
like
yes, yes.
the best brain
Brain
guy in
food.
the world, the memory guy. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
unbelievable. But he's like, it's not something you have or get, it's something you create. And
Mm-hmm.
when I listened to his or read his book, I listened to his Audible 3 or 4 times and read his book Limitless. Yeah, it's so true. And you're like, oh, that's why. It's like a common misperception. I was like, oh, that's why I've been unmotivated because I'm trying to think it's something that's going to come to me. It's not I create it. It's like,
Right.
right, how am I going to create it? Purpose and inspiration.
Uh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one is gonna come on and be like, oh, here's your dream life. Here's your dream car, your dream house, your dream job. Nobody's gonna do that, right? Nobody. Like you
Nobody's
have
come
to
to
go
save
out
you.
there. Whatever it is that you want, go get it. Go out there, create it, find it, go after it. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. But yes, I feel like because you said, right, like the advice you would give yourself is you don't have to know it all and keep going and things like that. I feel like that's like part of society though, right? Like when you said that, when you were saying, talking to your younger self, what it reminded me of was like, the constant people that always ask me, like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, like you need to really, figure this out because you're going to be in that career forever. I mean, that's at least when I was growing up, like people were always like, oh, well, choose wisely and like there's no changing and things are like set and blah, blah,
Use
blah. And
that. I
I
remember
know
that.
this is what they did back then, right? But that's made it so that's what created so much of the pressure. Like you needed to get it right. Oh my God. Like, like I remember like it was like so tough. And I think society plays such a big role and they don't teach you the good things. I feel like, you're wasting your time with, I don't know, geometry and I don't know, so many things that you don't really need. Not everybody of us, I think, needs to go and learn so many things. But like more, I really wish they would focus more on life skills, more on, yeah, like mindset, motivation. How do you keep yourself calm? How do you explore your feeling? I mean, there's so many topics I
Yeah.
feel like school is leaving out,
This is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I'm like, fuck, why wasn't you taught this shit? A lot of it's so simple.
right?
I was like, why weren't we taught how our mind and emotions work? I was like, then my life would have been way better if I knew this
That's what I'm
stuff
saying.
the whole time. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. If people are just more aware of these things and we don't have to wait until we're, yeah, 30s, 40s, and, have to figure this all out on our own, like it would be so much better. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree for
Yes.
sure.
All right. Yes. And stacking, definitely skill stacking. Yes. Go back. I was actually just talking about somebody else in my other podcast about that. Creating
Oh,
yourself
nice.
a fabulous folder of like your biggest highlights, and just kind of whenever you feel a bit low, kind of go back and just kind of look at that, just
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
photo album or whatever, and just kind of remind yourself of your biggest hits. Because right, sometimes we all have those moments where we're just kind of, we're not feeling it today, and it's good to remind yourself. And sometimes, yeah, I was saying that too, like sometimes we forget our greatest hits, like like we're focused on the more recent things, and so much has come on top, on top, on top, on top, like that move to the States, for example, like it's so far in the back now. It's not like, oh yeah, I did it. But then I meet someone new and they're like asking about my life, and then I'm explaining it, and then they're like, oh my God, this is so crazy. Like, what, you did all that, And then I'm like reminded, oh yeah, yeah, I did all that.
yeah,
I mean, like,
absolutely.
because yeah, it does kind of fade away, and you're just kind of like, yeah, that's part of, part of me, and
Yeah, but it
whatever.
still happened, right? You still achieved those things. You still did those things. You can still draw, you know, whatever emotion you want to feel from whatever memory you have. Like if you have a memory that made you feel confident
Mm-hmm.
and you want to feel confident, you can have this anchor that is going to bring you that feeling at any point you want, right? And that's like one side of, or a big part of emotional mastery. Like you need to feel confident and you're about to go for an interview or, something that you've never done before, something like this. And then you have an achievement in your life that gives you confidence. It makes you feel more confident about yourself. So that's your go-to in that moment to then, you know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, a memory of when you overcame something, or some people even like to have, you could have like a stone from the place you were at when you graduated from university or something like this, any kind of token or a
Oh,
picture or even a memory that you write down or something like this, I mean? And you can use it to feel the way you want to feel in this moment. Like if you're
yeah.
feeling alone and you have a picture of your family, your dog, your friends together or something that makes you feel loved, then that can stop you feeling lonely. And yeah, it's tapping into memories and things that you can use to give you the emotion that you want at that time.
Yes. I love it. Yes. So after the fabulous folder, yeah, you find to make some
Yeah.
little, yes, little
Fabulous folder is
addendum
very good.
of
I like
like
it.
the good feelings that you want to feel and how you get yourself transported into it. That's good. That's really cool because, sometimes you're really stuck. You have like, I don't know, like a bad day, or, like things are just running in your mind. And it's good to have, whichever tool you can use to snap out of it and get yourself shifting to a better state. And yes, if
Yeah,
it
the
brings
more
you,
the more the better, right?
yeah, exactly. Because not, you need to have different tools because not everything is working all the time. Like if you have just one thing, and sometimes it's just not that what you need, it's good to have different strategies that you can fall back on and just kind of go for that. And if there's something that can
Absolutely.
magically, snip your fingers and you're like, oh yes, I've got this super sandy. And that's good.
Yeah,
That's
super
good.
sandy. Fantastic.
Well, my daughter was racing through the house in her little cape, super sandy. So I borrowed that from her.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh,
Nice.
oh my goodness. Well, Mark, it was so, so nice chatting with you. Thank you so much for
Likewise.
coming on the show. Um, is there somewhere you want to, if people want to reach out to you, the best way to find
Yeah.
you? And I'm going to try and put it in the show notes, of course, but if there's.
The podcast is Mark Tully. This is TULLY dash the Vernal, which is VURNAL. I also have a Instagram, which is Tully TULLY in Sydney. It's my personal Instagram. I don't mind people contacting me on that until I get a business one. If anybody wants to reach out for coaching or just to talk about something, then yeah, no problem.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful talking with
Thanks
you.
for having me.